Paige Rien is a wife, mom, author, and designer, and does so much more. Basketball player. Well, today we'll talk about how her conversion grew out of recovery and how her family started a daily rosary during the quarantine. Paige, thanks so much for being with us. How are you doing today?
Oh, Jay, thank you so much for having me. And Bishop, good morning.
Hi,
and nice to see you all.
I have to tell you, our conversation beforehand, we should have just taped that and played that. That would have been fun.
We were about 20 minutes from getting on the court and doing a little one-on-one, I think.
That would not go well for me. I barely can move at this point. And plus, you're much taller than I am. Well, we all enjoy an immediate conversion story, like when Paul fell off the horse. But your conversion took place over like 20 years, is that right?
At least.
And it connected to a lot of different things. Can you tell us about it?
Sure. Well, I just have to, I think the Lord knows me, and he knows how stubborn and willful I am. And I think there's in my story, an interesting mix of a profound need for God at a very early age. I was a very sensitive child. I'm a big feeler, a big emotional person. So I was looking for God in all the wrong places and trying very desperately to fill what I later understood was a God-sized hole. And so I filled it with junk food, I filled it with alcohol, I filled it with inappropriate relationships, I filled it with material things. And so I think I was just in such a different direction of seeking that, and on top of that, because of other different factors in my life, some messaging I got at college and some other earlier parts of my life, I had a great antagonism for the church, an antagonism for organized religion, an antagonism for just sort of the culture as it talks about religion in that negative way. So I think the deck was stacked, and God, he needed a lot of time with me.
You know, Paige, I say the rosary every day because my mother left me with that before she passed from this world, and I know that the rosary is very important in your life. How did the rosary play a part in your conversion, and also your whole family's participation in that great and powerful prayer during the pandemic?
Well, thank you for asking that question. It's a great question. As a convert, the rosary was pretty much Greek to me. It felt foreign, it felt different. Truth be told, the first time my beautiful sister-in-law, Teresa, gave me a set of rosary beads when I was dating my husband, then boyfriend, I put them around my neck because I did not understand what they were. Again, I grew up in a fairly secular way. And so it was foreign to me. But I guess in conversion and as a convert, just trying to understand and absorb and contemplate the whole that is, all of it is Catholic culture, I said, let's try the rosary because the country's in lockdown, we're stuck in our house, and we were just called to prayer in a profound way. I mean, I wanted my children to understand there are so many people to pray for. And it also gave us a structure of the day. I never thought we would do it. I joke around that we used to have rosary cookies, and so if we could finish the rosary, you could have a different cookie every single night. And but pretty soon we didn't even need the cookies anymore because the kids were just kind of used to it. I have to say that now that quarantine life is over and sports have invaded our life back in, it's been harder for us to do it every night, and now we're more like once a week, unfortunately, as a family. But that structure was so beautiful, and because of that stretch of doing it every night in what I think was a hard time for all of us, something was really cemented in my heart and in my children's hearts about the value of the rosary and how we invited Mary in even before I understood who Mary was. I mean, again, it's like layers of an onion as someone who's new to the faith. But that ritual has become so beautiful, and even understanding the mysteries. So yes, thank you for asking that question.
Well, you know what the venerable Father Patrick Peyton would say: the family that prays together stays together.
Stays together. We watched his documentary actually as a family, and my kids just couldn't believe it. What a beautiful story.
Yeah, it is.
So, Paige, you talk about your conversion to the faith. I'm always interested in these type of stories.
Sure.
So were you fighting against it when you start to look into Catholicism and so on and so forth? Was it difficult, or did you just kind of figure it out?
Well, I would say over the process of many years, I understood that my husband and I needed a common place of faith, and we wanted to raise our children with faith, with morality, with values. And so we needed to find something to share. And I really came to know God through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, Debtors Anonymous, Al-Anon. I mean, these are 12-step programs are how I came to know God, not through church. And so that was my language of knowing that I was on my knees, literally needing God and healing. And believe it or not, the Catholic Church, with its sacraments and its structure and its beautiful and profound body, the magisterium, to me was the most like a 12-step program. I mean, that might sound funny, but the sacrament of reconciliation is very much akin to the process that we go in the 12 steps. And so I needed the rigor and the structure. I needed a faith structure that asked a lot of me. And so once I could overcome some of that antagonism, which I think the culture encouraged, and get really clear on what I needed to grow spiritually as a mother and as a wife, it became very clear. The other thing I'll say is that my husband's family and some of the people that we encountered had a special sauce I couldn't deny, and of family unity and a joy and really strong marriages. And there was this common thread that they were Catholic. And so it became very clear. But again, God had to send a lot of signs and messengers and words and so forth. But he did.
Now, you've written some books. Tell us about that.
Sure. My first book was called Love the House You're In. And actually, I was discerning my conversion as I wrote this book, because I worked on HGTV, which was lovely. And I worked on a show called Hidden Potential, where we tried to, create houses that were, great for, I'm a designer, by the way. We didn't talk about that, but I'm a designer by trade. And we in the show, we tried to make a house great for a new family that was shopping for a new house, and use all of our tools and tricks for that. And what I found is that the show, and I was even directed not to be too interested in the family, but just to focus on the house and maybe what would be great, per the real estate market. But I really wanted to get to know the family. And I found that often they weren't even used to explaining who they really were, what they were really like, what were their beliefs, what were their passions, what were their hobbies, how did they live. And so I wrote the book to really encourage people to let's get to know yourself and get to know who your family is and your family story. And from there, we're going to design the house. From there, we're going to make the house great. And I think that was the genesis of the first book, because truthfully, there's not a lot. We're not instructed to put images of our faith in the home. That's in typical design media. You're not going to see a lot of images of faith. It's been kind of taken out and it's been homogenized. But I think I really invite people that your faith should be even the center of the house. If it truly is the domestic church, a place where we not just are showing our faith, but actually using the tools of the faith throughout our day. So anyway, that's a big part of my work.
Well, where can people find out more about your work, Paige?
Well, I spend way too much time on Instagram, so unfortunately, I confess. But at Paige Rien I'm on Instagram, and I share a lot about my family story, and I share a lot about how I use my faith in beautiful ways in the home, and how important that is. So they can find me there. And my books are available on Amazon or anywhere books are sold. My other book is Revived and Renovated, and I do talk about both my addiction story and my recovery and my conversion there. And that's I'm pleased to share that with the world.
Well, we will have you on again. It's been a pleasure. Have a wonderful weekend.
All right. Next time, one-on-one.
Okay. Thanks,
Bye, Paige.